There are 8 different types of street photographer, at least in my head. And in this video, I'm gonna go through them along with some inspiring examples of each type. If you're new to this channel, my name is Micael Widell. Welcome. I've been doing videos about street photography and macro photography on YouTube for more than 7 years. If that sounds interesting to you, please consider subscribing. Before we jump into this, I just want to say that this is only how I categorize these photographers. They might categorize themselves differently, and you might categorize them differently. This is just how I view them in my head, and I apologize beforehand if anyone in the list feels like I've categorized them in the wrong way. This is just how I see things. First up, we have what I call the clever and rare moments street photographer. And they are signified by pictures that make you go, what? Make you look again and really surprise you, because they find moments that seem extremely rare. Many of the photos seem like they must have been waiting for hours at that location for that moment to happen. Or they have spotted something very, very clever that most of us would never spot, but they have found that pattern or that color combination or that thing that makes you look again. And these pictures are just amazing. 2 of my favorites in this category of photography are a German guy, Siegfried Hansen. I have linked an interview with him made by Samuel Streetlife below. That is how I got to know about this photographer. So Siegfried Hansen is really big photographer in Germany, and he really adheres to this style that I call clever and rare moments. Yeah, you can see for yourself here some of his pictures. Really amazing work. And if I were to try this, I think I would have to walk around for years before I made even one single of his photographs. Same goes for Jeremy Page, also known as Eaten by Flowers. He is also amazing in this regard. He finds moments that seem so rare and so hard probably to capture that it just blows my mind how he manages to do this. And he also shoots only on film, which must make it even harder. There is an excellent YouTube video, like a mini documentary made by Brian Burks about Jeremy Page, and I've linked it in the description, and it's what you're seeing right now, and I highly recommend you go look at it for some inspiration. Next up, we have streetscape. And this is probably the most common category of street photography nowadays, at least on YouTube, if you watch a lot of street photography YouTube. And I think that this is probably the category that I fall under myself, at least right now. A really inspiring guy that I would place in this category is Facial Westcott. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Actually, this particular video that you're looking at right now, 3 days of photography in Porto, Portugal, this video of his was the video I watched when I felt like, wow, I should actually try street photography a few months ago. So that video I found really, really inspiring, and the photos in that particular video, I would say they fall under streetscape. Streetscape, I would define it as when your scene is like the center of the photograph and you have people in it, and sometimes they are prominent, but the scene together with the people creates the photo. So it's more focus on finding beautiful scenes and then photographing them with or without people in them. Another person who does this is Jiwon Perry. Sorry again if I mispronounced your name. She has a really inspiring YouTube channel where we can follow her photo walks and her talking about the photos and yeah, just the thoughts behind them. Really inspiring YouTube channel. Another one that I really love is Sean Tucker. Most people who watch photography on YouTube has seen his videos. He is really, really good at talking about photography in an inspiring way, but I would also say that he is really talented in taking streetscape photos. Then we have Alan Scheller, who I have followed for a long time on Instagram, but recently started making YouTube videos. And he's so good at streetscape and black and white, high contrast streetscape in particular. I really find all of his photos really stunning, and although I don't usually like black and white photography, I think his photos are really amazing. Next up we have what I would call people-focused street photography, or maybe classical, conventional street photography, the kind where you walk around on sidewalks and focus on photographing people. Candid portraits of people out in the streets. And there are a lot of people who do this, a lot of New York-based people. And if you want to get a look into this world, I highly recommend Pauly B's YouTube channel, because he has interviewed so many of these street photographers in New York who I think are doing this style of photography. Pretty much all of them are shooting a Leica rangefinder, and pretty much all of them are focusing on shooting people on the sidewalk, like from the waist up, basically. Another great YouTube channel within this genre that I find really inspiring is Walk Like Alice. It's a smaller YouTube channel, but I think it's really good videos, really good thoughts, and really good for a beginner in street photography to watch. I highly recommend checking out the Walk Like Alice YouTube channel. Next up we have what I call prompted street portraits. And this is where you basically stop people on the street and ask, can I take your portrait? And hopefully they agree, and then you can have a lot more creative power to make the portrait you want to make, because it's not candid anymore. It's like the subject is cooperating with you to create the photo. And this is probably very hard. It requires a lot of guts to ask someone this. Someone who is super good at this and who has a YouTube channel is Lashmar, or The Street Thief. And I can warmly recommend to watch a few of his videos. He's really good both at approaching people, but also at making very beautiful street portraits. So super interesting work, and I hope that I one day will have the guts to try something like this. Next we have what I would call aesthetic candid street portraits. And this is where you take portraits of people pretty close up, so that almost all of their upper body and face is like what constitutes the photo. So pretty intimate portraits, but still candid, so the person you're photographing does not know about it until afterwards, possibly. So this style of street photography obviously requires a lot of guts on the photographer side to dare to do it. I don't really have the guts to do that yet, I think. Two really talented photographers that I would say are in this bucket is Fredrik Axling, a Swedish photographer who actually lives in Stockholm, my city. And the focus here is on aesthetically pleasing photos. They are really, really beautiful photos. It's not yeah, sure, you're catching a moment as well, but I think that what makes these photos so great is that they are aesthetically pleasing. They have beautiful colors, beautiful editing, and yeah, they just look very good. Another really talented photographer who I would say is also in this category is Dawn Eagleton. And as you can see, really, really beautiful photos. None of them have their own YouTube channel, but Dawn Eagleton, there is a video about her and about her photography that I can highly recommend. And as all the other videos that I'm showing in this video, it's linked in the description below, so you can check it out for yourself. Next, we have what I would call documentary style street photography. And this is street photography that kind of dives into a situation or a place, and where the photographer kind of immerses himself more in a scene, like walking into a place and documenting what's going on there, or maybe traveling to a location and documenting what's going on there in a series of photos that all tie to the same location or the same event. This is what I think many people, including me, would call like documentary style photography. And to me, the master of this, at least on YouTube, is a guy called Eduardo Ortiz. He does have his own YouTube channel, and I highly recommend you check it out. He has some really good videos, and he's so good at like immersing himself in a scene, starting to talk with the subjects while photographing them, and doing so in like a very good way. He's really talented in this, and it's very inspiring to watch him do this. And I think his work is also outstanding. It's really beautiful, aesthetically pleasing, and interesting. So I highly recommend you go check out his YouTube videos. Then we have something that maybe most people would call conventional street photography, but I would actually place this in a category of its own, and that is the aggressive close-up street portraits with a flash. The one who is most known for this, obviously, is Bruce Gilden. I think many photographers have seen the video about him doing his photography out on the streets. And of course, his work is interesting, but I think what draws most attention to this guy is the way he does his photography, where he just goes up into someone's face really aggressively with a flash and taking their photo from just a few centimeters away. And when people complain, he is just pretty harsh, and he's not that friendly back to them. And I think that this type of photography really requires that you are pretty special as a person. You should have a really high confidence in yourself, and that you're doing something that is okay to do. I don't think I would ever be able to do this and feel good about myself, but Bruce Gilden is very capable of that. Another guy who maybe is kind of like an up-and-coming young version of Bruce Gilden is Trevor Weisskopf. He has been featured in some YouTube videos where we can see him do his work. I'm sure there are even more examples, but Trevor Weisskopf has gotten a lot of attention as well. And as with Bruce Gilden, it feels like he gets more attention because of the way he does his photography and the confrontations that he does than the photos themselves that aren't like super interesting, if you ask me. Next up, we have what I call moody night photography. And this is basically beautiful, aesthetically pleasing night photography, and often with like a science fiction vibe to it, a little bit of that Blade Runner vibe. Two of my favorite examples in this genre is GX Ace. And if you haven't watched his YouTube videos about photography, you should go watch them right away, because he's such a master of creating really beautiful videos, not only beautiful photos. And another example of someone who is really talented in night photography and creating these nice vibes is Timu.mp4, as he calls himself on YouTube, or Timu.jpg, as he calls himself on Instagram. Really talented and very beautiful work, if you ask me. Do you agree with these categories? Are there more categories, or should they be divided differently? Tell me in the comments below, and see you soon again.